Good evening, everyone. Can we stand for the national anthem? Standing for the prayer, which will be done by Mr. John Arnold.
Maybe bow our heads and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this opportunity. We want to thank you for each one that's gathered here. We ask that you bless the proceedings of the evening and that you direct our thoughts and all our actions, and that you make us all leave here even better than we came to the function. We ask these in no other name but your name. Amen.
Amen. You may have your seats. Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Senator the Honorable Arnold Mitchell. Co-writer, Ms. Lisa Allen Agostini. Publisher, Janelle Fronten. Mr. Derek Lewis. Specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, and those joining us live on stream at TMAS, Tobago Media Advertising and Services Solutions. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the launch and book signing of Mr. John Arnold's second publication. Yes, this is not his first rodeo. Second publication, a memoir entitled Tobago Son, Memoir of Musician and Eventologist, Mr. John Arnold. Let's give a round of applause for that. Now, Mr. Arnold's name is synonymous with many greats. Hummingbird Medal awardee, musician, eventologist, board member, academic, and of course one of Tobago's most celebrated sons. And I have to say, Mr. Arnold, when the invitation came for me to host this, I was very happy, because I visited Tobago for Carnival and I found out that I do have Tobagoan blood in my veins. I'm related to the Trims. Ah, yes. So it really is a pleasure standing here and being here to just open the floor and even to congratulate you on this amazing journey. And of course, if you're wondering who this Tobagoan by relation is, my name is Kimberly D'Souza. And if you're also wondering if I was the one who interviewed Mr. Arnold on TV this morning, yes, that was me. So, lucky me, I got to interview him this morning. I got to even listen to an excerpt from the book. And just a reminder that the book is on sale today at a special price, so do not leave without picking up your copy. Yeah? All right. So just to give you a rundown of how this evening is going to go, we are going to have, of course, opening remarks by the man himself, Mr. John Arnold. We are also going to hear from his publisher, his co-writer, a few other speakers. We are going to be serenaded, of course, by our gifted and talented musician, and then we're going to break for refreshments and, of course, a book signing by the man himself. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Mr. John Arnold. Wait, Mr. Arnold, hold on. I have a whole thing planned. Go back and sit down. Now, Mr. Arnold was awarded the Hummingbird Gold for Culture and the Arts in 2011. Mr. Arnold holds a bachelor's degree in industrial management from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, a professional certificate in event management from the George Washington University, a certificate in hospitality sales and marketing from the American Hotel and Motel Association, a certificate in harmony and arrangement from Berklee College of Music in Boston, an executive MBA from the Arthur Lockjack Global School of Business, UE, and he is currently actually a student doing his doctoral project at UE. He is currently the chairman of Music TT Board, and I also see we have a fellow member. Hello Melissa, how are you? He is also director of Creative TT, director of COT, the Copyright Organization of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Arnold has been one of the main brains behind many of the big events that we know and love. Tobago Jazz Festival, Tobago Gospel Festival, Tobago Jazz Experience. He is an accomplished pianist and also the leader of Tobago's only jazz ensemble, the Karawak Players. John has 3 personal CDs to his name and is the artistic director of the Signal Hill Alumni Choir. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. John Arnold.
Good evening, everyone. So I was at a launch last night, but before that, you know, when you're in a room with so many great people, you know, it's always, you know, a humbling experience. But let me recognize the Minister of Tourism and the Arts, the Honorable Arnold, and he has been somebody that we've had several conversations in the areas of tourism and culture. Let me also recognize the chairman of a board that I'm on, the Creative TT, Mr. Calvin Bishu, and several of my other colleagues. We also have the publisher, my co-writer, everybody. I want to say welcome to all of you for being here. There's actually a competition in my mind between last night, event in Tobago at the Karawak Village, and the event tonight. So already as an event person, the setting here is much more elaborate, of course, than last night, and for that, of course, you know. And again, the spirit of last night was really, really wonderful. And already I think the spirit here is already developing to be a great evening. So again, I just want to welcome you, and I hope we have a great time this evening, all right? Good.
Short and straight to the point, as we always know Mr. Arnold to be. Let me call on well-known author and journalist Miss Lisa Allen Agostini, who penned the 10-chapter memoir, which takes a deeply personal look at the experiences and influences that shaped Mr. Arnold's life. Mr. Arnold revealed to me that it was actually Lisa who encouraged him to go a little bit deeper. Don't just scrape the surface, go deeper and share some of that personal experience and journey with us. And so we're going to hear from Mrs. Lisa Allen Agostini now. Let's put our hands together for her.
And now I'm going to utter those terrible words, all protocols observed. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for your kind introduction. Minister, good evening. John, I'm so proud of us. I'm so extremely proud of us. Those of you who don't know who I am, let me just tell you a little bit. I was a journalist for many years. I was a features journalist, interviewing many, hundreds and hundreds of people over a career of about 2 decades at 3 different newspapers. And I, during that time, got to get a little bit good at it. And so when I was approached to assist John by ghostwriting a memoir, I said, okay, well, this could be interesting, this could be interesting. But what he had in mind and what I had in mind was two different ideas. But we came to an understanding eventually, and as it turned out, I didn't end up ghostwriting, but I'm a better writer than I am speaker, so let me just say what, I'll read a bit from the foreword of the book. Although he hired me as a ghostwriter, I felt John had a unique voice that deserved to be heard. Rather than ghostwriting for him, I wanted to facilitate his own writing, helping him tell his own story in his literary voice. John and I started the book in the heart of the COVID-19 global lockdown. Over 4 months, he and I met over Zoom once or twice a week, early in the morning, for recorded conversations that he would later transcribe and I would edit. I would guide our discussions with my questions, teasing out anecdotes and sharpening old memories in the way I had conducted hundreds of interviews during my 2 decades as a features journalist. But I also encouraged John to tell parts of his own story for himself, and there are chapters here that he wrote on his own. The finished text is indubitably written in his voice, as I used the lightest hand possible to shape and polish the narrative that emerged. It's not in standard English, but rather a version of the Tobago Creole that John speaks. As the book was produced largely from an oral account, it retains some oral features. And that is my intention, actually, that the reader would be able to hear John's melodic voice telling the story to them the way he told it to me on those early morning Zoom calls. I hope it's an enjoyable read, but more importantly, I hope it faithfully documents some of the life and times of one of Tobago's greatest sons. And now, I must make a confession. I couldn't write a memoir. For me, and possibly for other writers, it's much more palatable to fold facts into fiction. So that a short story or a novel that I write might contain many truths, but not one of them to be held up to public scrutiny. Someone analyzing it to say, yes, this is what really happened. Writing memoir requires much more courage than I possess. That John Arnold has published this very revealing book about his life says a lot about him and his courageous heart. Of course, memoir is selective. So someone was asking me earlier, what's the difference between, well, what is memoir? Memoir is, it is not your whole life story. It's not your whole autobiography. A memoir takes a specific part of your life or a specific aspect of your career and talks about that. And in this case, John, we focused on his early childhood, his youth. We focused on his work as a musician, particularly with Signal Hill. And we also focused on some parts of his career as what he calls an eventologist. So in a memoir, the writer chooses which details he will unfold in the narrative. In the case of Tobago's son, as I just said, John Arnold has chosen to tell his version of the story of his upbringing and his early days as a teacher into his transition to becoming an eventologist. His word, a word that suggests the meticulous, detailed approach he takes to planning and staging public events. I think those parts of his story all fold together in showing why John is the way he is and why he has taken the career path he's taken so far. In this book, he's also recorded institutional history in telling part of the narrative of one of our most important cultural groups, the Signal Hill Alumni Choir. The record of history isn't a great monolithic thing. You know, we tend to think, oh yes, history happened. Right, but history happened, but how history is recorded is, you know, it's written with reference to many stories from various sources. And in time, John Arnold's memoir may well become one of these sources informing future generations not only about his life as a notable national figure in his own right, but also about his times. Here, in these pages, he documents what it was like growing up in Trinidad and Tobago in a certain time of the 20th century, what it was like to be a student and to be a teacher. History should also benefit from his documentation and analysis of Tobago's festivals, a fairly recent development in the cultural landscape. Trust when I say that future historians will be very grateful to him for the stories he tells in Tobago's Sun, grateful for his courage and his words. And these are, as I said before, by and large, John Arnold's words. I hope readers will enjoy the book as much as I enjoyed conducting the interviews from which it was constructed. And finally, may it sell and sell and sell. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I was lucky to come a bit early, so I did see the book sell and sell because some people already have signed copies. I appreciated your words, and I like the fact that you were talking about his early childhood, his growth, his career, because I think now it's so important for us to tell our stories, and I thank you, Mr. Arnold, for going down that path. Let me also take a moment to recognize the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Nian Gaspidoli, who has joined us this evening. Good evening, Minister. So I know, because like I said, I was one of the lucky ones. I got to listen to an excerpt this morning, and I know it's because of the team that Mr. Arnold had when he was making this book. And so I also want to bring his publisher up just to give a few remarks, Miss Janelle Fronton. Let's give her a round of applause.
Follow suit with Lisa, who's one of my favorite authors, and say all protocols observed. I'm sorry. When I was a child, I read a story about a boy who could sleep through a storm. It was said that a farmer went into a village looking for farmhands, and he saw a boy relaxing under a tree. The farmer asked him if he was willing to come and work the land, tend to the animals, and if interested, what his qualifications might be. The boy's only response was, "I can sleep through a storm." The farmer was confused, but having tried other lads in the village without success, he figured he had nothing to lose. So the boy went home with him that day, and his performance over the next few weeks was so impressive to both the farmer and his wife, until a storm came. The farmer rushed out to get the boy so he could help him secure the farm and the animals, but nothing he did could wake this boy. Enraged and realizing what had happened, he decided the very next morning he was going to fire him. Then the farmer went out to move the tractor into the barn, tighten the bales of wheat, gather the tools, secure the animals, and fasten the shutters of the farmhouse, only to find that the boy had performed every single task already. That's why he could sleep through the storms. The boy went to sleep soundly every night, knowing he was prepared for the worst. As a little girl, this parable, for which I have yet to find the original author, profoundly affected me. I often wondered what it would be like to find that much peace, to know that at any given moment I had done all I could and worry would be banished from my mind. I figured this sort of perfection was an unrealistic aim in a world of curveballs and chaos, and then I met John Arnold. I had the pleasure of serving as a GM of Music TT for 3 years and 3 months, and in that time, with John as my chair and boss, I had the distinct honor of being blown away by his calm demeanor, even if the walls of Jericho were crashing down. John embodies what it means to trust, not just in himself and his capabilities, but also in others. He knew how to delegate and release responsibility into your hands, and he never micromanaged or descended into stress if things didn't go as planned. He submitted to a higher power, confidently pivoting at every turn, not wasting an ounce of energy on things he couldn't change. John Arnold, you are the serenity prayer in a person. While you were rather upset with me when I resigned from Music TT to pursue the other paths that called to me, even though I left you in the most capable hands of Miss Melissa Jimenez, who is the most amazing GM ever. One of these paths that I left for was also to become an author. So the precious irony isn't lost on me that I get to stand here today, having also assisted you in publishing this book. The meaningful nature of our intertwining parts of purpose has outdone itself with Tobago Sun. This authentic, straight-talking memoir is filled with lessons and wisdom beneath the stories that anyone can adapt to their lives. I look forward to your many more books to come, as I know this launch is only just the beginning and continuation of your journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Franton, and I think we are all going to be looking for that serenity prayer in person pretty soon. As we move along, I'm now going to invite, I'm going to invite you, Dr. Dolly, to come and give your remarks. Let's welcome the Minister.
Good evening, everyone. And a good evening it certainly is. I said no matter what, hail, snow, rain, whatever, I had to be here and show up for John. And I want to take a fair out of that serenity prayer in a person, because my experience with John started in a whirlwind of Carifesta. Carifesta 2019 was a massive undertaking, a regional festival. And there are certain norms and standards associated with that, and a certain level of deep chaos. And there came a time where we required someone to take a firm hand and to really help guide us through the process. And it wasn't at the start, it was closer to the end, the implementation time. And we had a team together, a team that was working together, working well, but we just needed an extra oomph. And that extra oomph was John Arnold. John came in to a team already formed, so you know how that can be. And John just fit in there. Regardless of any type of attempted storming, John wasn't having that. He understood the task at hand, as the young people say. He understood the assignment. John came in with a sense of calm. So that's why I smiled when he said serenity prayer in a person. A sense of calm and calm confidence, because he was clear that we are going to do what is required to get this done. And we put on a festival that was a toast of the region that set the bar for events and festivals in this region since then. And I can tell you that there was no task too small or too large for John to do. The general public saw the outside shine, but of course when you're in the engine room, you know when the spanner inside where it's not supposed to be, and when all these things are happening. And regardless of what, John was just the fix-it person. This going wrong, John's going to fix it. That going bad, John will deal with it. Down to the day, John, you remember the day of the parade, the Friday? I mean, we have stories to tell. And I can say to you that I didn't know John very well before that. I would have met him and seen him. But I thank God. You know, there are not many things you thank God for in these positions of being a politician, right? Much more often you say, oh God. But if it is one thing I thank God for, is that I met John Arnold. That person, a true gem of Trinidad and Tobago. When I met him, I said, John, where do you live? He said, I live on the and. And that is indeed true. John, I am so proud for you today. I congratulate you and the team who would have worked with him to put this together. And I look forward to my read. John, I get my read here. So I look forward to my read. Congratulations and all God's blessings as you move forward to the next, and the next, and the next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind, authentic words, Minister. And I think one of the things that we're hearing all the time as we listen to people come up here and talk about Mr. Arnold is that he was a people person. He knew how to deal with people, he knew how to diffuse situations, and so I'm very, very eager to read some of those stories. Hopefully, Dr. Gasbidali in the book, we'll see if we can get some of those stories. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to listen to a video presentation that was done by Professor Sterling Frost, ORTT.
For over 4 years, the essence of my life's work has been built on the virtue of making a difference in the lives of others. Along the way, I've been privileged to cross paths with many others who are like-minded men and women who have dedicated their lives to carving out a way within their own spheres to build a better Trinidad and Tobago. Among them sits John Arnold, a Tobago son, for whom I have garnered the highest respect and deepest appreciation and admiration, and whose work I am very privileged to celebrate today. More than merely a mirror of his life, Tobago's son offers a candid inquest into the mind of a man capable of commanding the ear of those at the highest levels of the cultural spectrum, yet one who remains in tune with the very ordinary citizens who consume and respond to our cultural output, outcomes, and impact. Even with the evident cultural nuances between our two islands, which of us having witnessed a performance by Signal Hill Alumni Choir can't admit that we are simply one people. We can also agree that there is magic in what John touches and creates. His is a contribution that transcends and resonates with generations, and that has helped us all to discover who we are, and more critically, what we have the power to accomplish. In his capacity as chairman of the Culture Committee of the First Citizens Foundation, I have found John to be open, authentic, and resolute in his desire to take Trinidad and our beloved Tobago forward. His depth of foresight, framed by his sunny personality, makes his insights thought-provoking and inspiring. This to me is what makes Tobago's Son an enjoyable read, but more so a valuable reference point for aspiring and practicing cultural aficionados with an interest in developing their craft. I am tremendously grateful for the opportunity to endorse this very comprehensive exposition of John's life and work. I wish him the very best as he continues to produce work worthy of being titled The Eventologist, and I thank John for being a Tobago son, whose contributions will continue to inspire and influence our times and beyond. Congratulations, my friend.
That was Professor Sterling Frost, ORTT. Professor Frost actually just got the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and for somebody of that stature to be given that sort of congratulations to Mr. Arnold, of course, speaks to who he is as well. So again, Mr. Arnold, congratulations to you. And I know that among us, we have friends, we have well-wishers, we have admirers, and I want to call on one of his closest friends, his longest friends, a fellow eventologist himself, Mr. Derek Lewis, to give a few remarks. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to be, all protocols. You know, I am here to celebrate a friend. I'm not here to make a long, winding road of memories, and I could. I just wanted to say that when someone writes the way John writes, when someone lives the way John lives, when John takes on challenges the way John does, writing is stripping off pieces of skin, taking off pieces of clothing, and exposing your heart and your deepest thoughts. That sharing is not one that everyone wants to do, but I think John is the right person to do that. Folks, I have a very, very short speech. It's 13 words long. John, to me, and what the Honorable Minister and all the people before me have said, summed it up, I hope, in 13 words. If anyone has another word, you can join in after. So John, to me, he's honest. He is giving and forgiving. He is competent, resilient, organized, talented. John is willing, generous. He's resourceful. He's respectful, brilliant. He's successful. He's patient. He's intelligent. And most of all, he's humble. John, thanks for your humility more than everything else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis, fellow eventologist. I didn't get all 13 words, but I did get respectful, humble, and forgiving. Because I think sometimes we forget that in this business, people do make mistakes, people may disappoint us. But if it is we really have to get the work done, we have to forgive people and find a way to keep it going. So we appreciate that, Mr. Arnold. I will now call the man of the hour himself because he is about to read an excerpt from his memoir. Let's welcome him.
They told me I have to use the red chair. So I'm gonna, just two simple passages. This book can create another, but it's an honest book. So I read, this was a period of sweat and pain as we tried every way to ask the partner to deal straight and level with us. I recall being in Mr. Wilson's office as he called one possible financier, the late Bob York, and then CL giant Andrew Montai. That same day, CL Financial said that yes, they would come on board. This was another paradigm shift in the festival planning, as working with the conglomerate was not something we had done before. In 2 days, I was on a flight to Los Angeles with Tony Maraj representing CL Financial. The plan was to get the show back on the road by meeting with Stevie Wonder's management and other key stakeholders on that side of the Atlantic. Money talks on the air on a local radio station so that the people in Tobago and Trinidad could hear that the show was on. It was a master plan, as listeners heard Stevie Wonder live telling me that he was glad to be part of the festival and he was definitely coming to Tobago. The event's credibility was restored. It's more juicy than that, so check it out. And then, I'm only going to share this because last time there was so much response to this. A lot of people didn't know that I battled with prostate cancer. So my family, I'm just giving you a little background so that it makes sense. My family has a history of cancer. And so since I was 29, I was going to the doctor. And the doctor used to be like, boy, stop worrying your head about that stuff. But since I was 29, I was taking every possible herb that there was in an attempt to make sure it doesn't happen to me. I read. I will never forget the moment I'm about to tell you. I was at the office at tourism when Dr. Patrick called me and told me to check him at the hospital. He said, I have some not so good news for you. The worry spirit was boss at that time. When I got to Dr. Patrick's office, he showed me the results of the biopsy test. And it revealed that I had prostate cancer. Small, yeah? Which from where he sat was just about 5%. He further indicated I had a 10-year window to consider operation, as that cancer is slow in growth. I then said to him, Doc, you can't be serious. How can I live normally knowing that cancer is inside of me? For the next few months, I did all kinds of research on prostate health. I learned about prostate brachytherapy, the radioactive seeds that they put inside to treat the cancer. I learned about all the various forms of chemotherapy. I learned about robot arms that do surgery. I learned the major fact that this disease was a black man's nightmare, as radical prostatectomy was the recommended procedure for black men who have prostate cancer. This is when you take out the entire prostate with the lymph glands and nerves that attend to it. The two main concerns for me were how this surgery would affect my ability to urinate, and also how do I cope with sex, because two common side effects of the surgery were urinary incontinence and erectile dysfunction. I recall talking with my mother and telling her about these areas of concern, and her comments was, well boy, you had enough sex in your life. So, yeah, and so that area was not an issue. I guess she was referring to the fact that I had 7 children at that time. So just to tie that off, I recall, just to make sure, I told all the men last night, that should be the first chapter you read, and then start from the beginning of the book. But it's interesting, and I'm glad that, we have just a few minutes just to say that everything that could go wrong went wrong with me during that period of recovery. And it's a nightmare because but the surgeon told me something that was really, really, really good. At the end of my surgery, as you know, it's only when you finish your surgery, you know if you will be able to definitely have sex properly after. So, because when they're inside, they can tell you where the cancer is actually. So when it came out, I was the first of 6 persons. I recall when I woke up properly and so on, and he came back. He actually came to my bed and he says, don't worry, you're okay. So I just thought I would make sure that you know I'm okay.
Did not listen to the advice at all, Dr. Arnold. Mr. Arnold. You still wanted to be sure that you were okay. And that was an excerpt from Tobago's Son, memoir of musician and eventologist John Arnold. Remember, it is on sale today, and it is also on sale at a reduced price. So please, before you leave, make sure and get a copy. I remember I read a meme where someone says, when you write a memoir or an autobiography, you want everybody else to read it except the people you know. Because there's so much personal details that you're going to put. But just borrowing from what Derek said, Mr. Arnold is so humble and he's so honest. He had to put that honest piece of information, saying true to form, and we appreciate you for that, sir. And we are going to have a little entertainment coming up at this time. I will now like to call Mr. Theron Shaw to come and do his thing. Let's welcome Mr. Shaw.
So I've known John for a very long time. And so we'll do a song that's called No Money No Love by the Mighty Sparrow. I guess in tongue in cheek saying, well, you know, the book is out, so you might know.
Mr. Theron Shaw. Let's hear it one more time for Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw is also one of Mr. Arnold's longest friends. Well, longest friends. I don't know if he's going to rival Mr. Lewis, but I'll leave the gentleman to sort that one out. And we are almost at the end of the program, but before we end, of course, we want to say thank you to a few people, and no one else is more deserving of this thank you. We say thank you to you, but we encourage you to give thanks as well. Mr. John Arnold.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe I'm up here too often, but it's my show. So, all right. So, Terra is always special to me. I think this country does not always recognize what we have, but that's you should really applaud this because absolutely nobody that I know beyond those. I have experienced Larry Antwell, I've experienced Monroe, everybody. And Theron stands in a class, take it from me. Tony Woodruff is also here, who, again, these are two guys that, as long as I'm having a show in Tobago, they have to be a part of it. And those who follow me know that they're like, part of the work. Yeah. I want to say thanks to everybody here. You can hear me say, dear, whatever is your name, thank you. Just give me the name and say, dear, So, Melissa heard me say, dear Melissa, dear Dion, dear Arnold, yeah. So just say, dear, and just hear me say thank you to you. I want to thank the two ministers for being here today. The Honorable Paul School should have been here, but of course it may have been something else. And I want to thank Lisa for being here, for her words. And Lisa, there was a time, of course, Lisa came and she actually stayed in my downstairs apartment. And, it was all a weekend to again do more interviews. And these interviews, really spanned some months well, and then later on we had to come back and again edit and talk and so on. But Lisa is a unique person. Lisa knows how to ask you a question that takes you back in your mind. Something you didn't remember. When she asks a question, it takes you back. And then sometimes she asks me a question I can't remember, but it's stuck in your head, and then over the night, over the next few days, and I'm hoping to help her. She wants to now delve into music and songwriting and so on. So I promised her I would help her with that, because she's really, really been good to me. So I want to thank her. I want to thank Janelle. Janelle has these stories, but it is one of the most, apart from Melissa and all the others I experienced, but Janelle set the pace. Janelle was like the John the Baptist for Jesus who came after, she literally set the tone of how Music TT can really move, and all the things that we're benefiting now, you can tell them. I told them in a meeting that Janelle was really responsible for laying those foundations. She, literally. And really, I want to thank her for her support. She is a wonderful person, so it's easy to work with both her and her husband, Kevin. And I really, really, really want to thank her for being here. Derek, the 13-word man. Where's he? Oh, good, right. Derek is, and we have done several projects, and I trusted Derek. All of what you're seeing is Derek's conceptualization. All that you see outside, Derek, he along with his daughter and his team. And I know I can depend on him the same way he leans on me with something to do in Tobago and so on. And I really want to thank him for his comments. And then, of course, Dr. Nyanga Dolly. As you know, she told you all the stories we had. We almost got in trouble because the night when we had to cut the cake, the person they chose was me to cut the cake. And I remember somebody wanting to know if we did have a relationship, and I said no. We have such a great working relationship, and we understood her professionally. We worked really, really hard, and she's correct. That caricature is hard to even imitate or come again. It's going to take a while, unless it comes back to us. You know what I mean? Yeah. So again, let me thank all of you, and I know that we moved to another phase, some refreshments, some others, and so on, and book signing and so on. I'm following instructions from the event coordinators, but I'm glad that all of you were able to make it. Thank you very much. I want to thank Kimberly for really doing a great job this evening. We spoke this morning on the air, and I didn't even know that we'd be meeting this evening again. All right, so it was a surprise on both sides. All right, thanks, Derek. Thank you, Masika. Thank you. Is it Melinda? Derek. Huh? Candice, that's it. Yeah, I actually see the word. Candice. They're the ones that really put the whole event together. But I really want to thank all of you. If I missed anybody, take it from me. I didn't do it purposefully. There's some great people in here, but I'm sure we'll meet after and talk and so on. Thank you very much, folks. And let me turn back over to Kimberly.
Mr. Arnold, I will forgive you only because today is your day. Only because today is your day. But let me thank everybody for coming out today and congratulating Tobago's very own. He's not just Tobago's own, but he's ours, right? He's a son of the soil because he is TNT. And I can't wait to read those stories because I was a huge fan of jazz. And so I don't know what happened in the background. I just saw the amazing show, so I can't wait to see those little nuggets of information that you're going to share. So let me again thank you so much for coming out. Before you leave quickly, we are going to encourage you to go to the lobby because we have books on sale. Remember, Lisa said sale, 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 sell, sell, sell. So we do have books on sale outside. Mr. Arnold is also going to be autographing those books as well, and you can have a conversation with him as you usually do, and then you can also stay back for light refreshments. Yeah? So again, thank you so much for coming, and remember we are streaming live on TMAS, which is the Tobago Media Advertising and Services Solution. Thank you all, have a good night.
Today I know your name, Kevin.
No, they want moving.
No, you go ahead.
They want the movie to watch.
No.
It's like his guest.
Yeah.